Hello folks, this is Aja from inspiredrise.com, and Intel recently sent us a very sweet package, and this one houses the latest 10th generation core chipsets. Today we are going to talk about one particular chipset out of these, which is the Core i9 10th generation processor. It's the Core i9 10900K. It has 10 cores, 20 threads. We are going to run this through its paces and see what kind of performance do you get. So guys, stay tuned till the end. So guys, for testing this particular processor, we went to Voltage PC Nehru Place to our dear friend Naman Gupta, and we made a very hardcore test bench with the Asus ROG Maximus 12 Extreme Z490 chipset motherboard, 32GB of DDR4 RAM, 3000 MHz, XMP 2.0 profile, everything properly set. We also set the AI overclock to AI enhancement mode so that we don't have to go through a lot of hassles in order to get the best performance out of this particular processor. And apart from all of these, we use the Cooler Master Hyper 212X cooler, a Corsair CX750 PSU, an Acer Predator monitor with G-Sync enabled, an Asus GeForce RTX 2080 GPU, and just a normal wired keyboard and mouse, because who's got the money for that after all of this? Jokes aside, let's talk about the hard numbers. The Core i9 10900K is based on a 14 nanometer process. It's one of the final refinements to the 14 nanometer chipset before Intel switches to 10 nanometer process. You get up to 3.7 GHz base frequency, a 5.3 GHz maximum turbo frequency for 2 cores, and maximum turbo frequency on all cores is up to 4.9 GHz. It's based on the LGA 1200 socket. You get a 20 megabyte smart cache memory, and 125 watt TDP is present. A maximum memory size of 128 GB is supported on this particular processor, and it comes with Intel UHD graphics, 630 integrated graphics. So we ran a lot of different things like Cinebench, Geekbench, etc., CPU-Z benchmarks, etc., and few things were clear after running all of these tests. One simple thing was that when it comes to single core performance, this processor definitely beats everything out there. The Core i9 10900K delivers the best single core performance right now, and even in terms of multi-core performance, the performance was definitely impressive, though when you compare it against really high core count processors, it does fall short. But when it comes to single core, this is the undisputed king right now. If you're going to use this processor, the newer motherboards with the Z490 chipset come in really handy. This is because of the fact that they have support for newer Wi-Fi 6, they have support for higher LAN bandwidths, and they also support multi-core enhancement features which this particular generation of processors has, which allows you to get a more higher core speed, and you get a stable overclock across all cores using this particular chipset motherboards. Using something like the MSI Tomahawk motherboard, you can get a very nice clock speed of 5 GHz plus on all of the cores, stable without need for additional tinkering, just straight out of the box. So it depends upon your choice of motherboard as well as to how much power you can draw out from this processor. If I talk about gaming and FPS, I saw a general trend across all of my gaming patterns. We tested Grand Theft Auto 5, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which is a fairly old game and not that demanding game, but still we tested all of these because I love to play them. And one thing was particular here. One of the major things that we saw is that when it comes to FPS, it was above everything else in most of the games. In most of the games, we got better FPS than the competing chipsets by up to 20 to 25% margin. And at 1080p gaming, the difference is pretty stark. When it comes to 2K gaming, the differences go a little bit down because then the GPU is more involved and it becomes more of a bottleneck. And the GPU we use here, the Asus GeForce RTX 2080, also held up pretty good in all our testing. And we should have gone for a better one like 2080 Ti or 2080 Super, but well, a man does the best with what he has. So what we saw here was a nice indicator of how much performance you can draw out from this particular processor. And one of the better things I saw with this generation is that even when we were stress testing this processor, we were able to push it to a max temperature of only 81 degrees Celsius while running stress tests here. and this was with the air cooler. If you have a proper liquid cooler setup, I think the temperatures would be even lower. So all of this is because of the newer changes that they have done to their whole structure, which allows for better thermal conductivity, and that allows for better heat transfer, and that results in better sustained performance over a long duration of time. And you can easily sustain 5 GHz plus on almost all of the cores using particular enhanced motherboards. And even with this one, we were able to get a decent clock speed across all of the cores. And who is the Intel Core i9-10900K for then? I guess for the top of the line competitive gamers, for people who are going to run applications from Adobe suite like Adobe Photoshop, After Effects, etc. Those applications really benefit from a higher single core performance. And even for people who are into emulation, who are into music production, almost all of the applications which are able to do all of this stuff, they still benefit from a higher core performance, single core performance, and they don't really scale well in terms of performance when it comes to more cores. Sometimes more cores is not the answer. Sometimes you really need the best single core performance you can get out from your particular processor, and maybe that's why Intel still has a lead in gaming when compared to other competing platforms. You know who I'm talking about. For HEVC video encoding, it's still neck to neck with the competition due to better AVX support on this one. In our testing here using the BIOS Q fan control, we set the speed of the air cooler to maximum at all times. We did this because we didn't want the CPU to be bottlenecked because of the fact that we didn't have a liquid cooler. Let's move forward. There was no stuttering or sudden FPS drops, which you can still occasionally find on competing solutions. So when it comes to sustained gaming performance, Intel is still the way to go. And for some games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Shadow of the Tomb Raider, you would run into GPU bottlenecks even before you could even max out the CPU at higher resolutions than 1080p. Right now the CPU retails for a price of around 54,000 rupees online, and most probably these prices are subject to change. These are not final prices because of the fact that the dollar versus rupee changes a lot, because of the fact that the stocks vary, and because of the fact that individual sellers might sometime want to sell this processor for some lower or higher price point. So I guess a good ballpark figure would be around 50k, and around 50k the price for this processor is pretty good, considering the fact that if you are a huge hardcore gaming fan, if you're somebody who wants the best in class single core performance, if you're somebody who wants a processor which won't bottleneck their GPU down the line, if you're somebody who's ready to spend that extra premium cash for the fact that you are getting the best FPS out there, I guess anything which makes you sleep better at night. So if you're somebody who wants to be the FPS king, if you're somebody who wants to run those particular applications which are a lot, which rely on high single core performance, if you're somebody who plays games a lot, don't look at me. I don't have that much time. So if you're somebody who plays games a lot and does all of that stuff, most probably the Intel Core i9-10900K is the processor for you. So guys, this was it for this video. In case you like this one, don't forget to smash the thumbs up button and do subscribe to Inspired to Rise for more awesome tech videos like this one. And guys, no matter what you do, stay inspired to rise.